Morning again.
Morning.
You know, it's interesting. I've gotten a few comments, like about my homilies, and some of the comments were, "You're such a good teacher." I find that flabbergasting, all right, because I never wanted to be a teacher. I knew I couldn't be a teacher, so I found those comments a little bit unbelievable. But I thought that this morning maybe I can play the role. All right, so I would ask all of you to take out pencil and paper because we are going to have a quiz. All right? And it's a little bit of math and it's a little bit of biblical history. All right, so you ready for the first question? Don't shake your head. You're ready. You're ready for this, all right? All right, so the first question is a mathematical one. All right, 4 times 10. You got that? Second question is also mathematical. 8 times 5. Got that? All right, now we're going into biblical history. All right, how many years was Moses and the Jews in the desert? Got that? Okay. Number 4. How many days did it rain in the first reading with Noah and the ark? Got that? All right, 5th and last question. All right, how many days did Jesus spend in the wilderness? You got that? Great. Now, those of you who are at home, if you have a significant other, switch papers. For those of you who are alone, you get a special benefit. You can correct your own paper. All right, but when you hand them in, when you mail them in to me, all right, I don't want to see any smudges or cross-outs. All right, so what you'll notice is that all 5 answers are the same. All 5 answers are 40, right? That piqued my interest. And I said, 40 seems to be a common theme. And I started thinking, and I said, what was the amount of time between the resurrection and the ascension? 40. All right, what about, what was the amount of time between Christmas Day and the presentation of the baby Jesus in the temple? 40 days. And I'm saying, wait a minute, what's going on here? So last night, I decided that I was going to research this. So I paged through the Bible, page by page. And I found out that 40 was mentioned 157 times. Do you believe that? You don't believe that? Now you know me too well. You know that I didn't page through the Bible last night. All right, I got out the Google machine, and I Googled it, and Google told me it's mentioned 157 times. So taking that, I said, there must be a secret code. Why would Bible writers mention 40 so many times? And it seems as though the code is that 40 equals the preparation for transformation. All right, just take the first reading. All right, when Noah's ark landed after 40 days of rain, the world had been transformed, right? It was a transformed world. All right, let's look at Jesus, all right, in the desert today, 40 days. And he comes out transformed. What do we mean transformed? Well, we don't know too much about Jesus when he entered the desert. There's not a lot written from the time that he was 12 years old and answering the chief priest's questions in the temple until the baptism. All right, so that's a great span of time. Well, we don't know what Jesus was doing during that time. Was he part of his father's carpentry business? Was it Joseph and sons? Joseph, James, and Jesus? We don't know. All right? We know that he is often called rabbi. So did he actually go to a rabbinical seminary before the desert? We don't know. What we do know is that when he came out of the desert, he was transformed. Because when he went into the desert, he wasn't an itinerant preacher. But when he came out, he was. So what transformed him? Now, they mention that he was tempted by the devil. They mention that the angels ministered to him. Did that mean that the angels prepared a 7-course meal for him every night? We know that when you go into a desert by yourself, you can only carry a minimal amount of food. All right, so no matter how long he spent there, he would have had to have food from somewhere. But maybe he asked his cousin John where to find the locust and wild honey. We don't know. All right, what we do know is that he went into the wilderness for 40 days, 40 nights, and came out transformed. So what do you think it was? What do you think transformed him? We're sort of led to believe, right, that it was his fasting that was the transformational figure. I personally tend to doubt that, all right, because I can look at my own life, all right, being brought up as a good Irish Catholic kid, all right, Advent and Lent always meant sacrifice, all right, always meant fasting, always meant giving up something, all right, and I can remember especially one year in the seminary, I decided that I was going to give up smoking. And I was really good. I had 40 days and 40 nights without a puff. Come Holy Saturday, all right, and Holy Saturday in the seminary was a cleaning day, so we cleaned up the whole seminary, getting ready for the Easter Vigil. Now, the Easter Vigil in those days wasn't anticipated, okay, so it was at midnight. All right, so at 11:30, I'm in my room, I'm putting on my cassock, and I go over to my pipe stand and pick out my favorite pipe, put it in this pocket, go over to my desk, and I pick out my brand new, fresh pouch of tobacco, put it in this pocket. So after Easter Vigil, and it's very special in the seminary, as probably some of you know, and certainly Joyce would know. She could tell you about it. But after the ceremony, I went out into the courtyard and immediately took out my pipe, my pouch, filled the bowl with tobacco, lit it up, and two things immediately happened. All right? I got tremendously dizzy and tremendously nauseous. And then the second thing kicked in, but I want to talk about that first thing. To me, that was my body saying, you fool. All right, I cleaned your body from this poison, and now you're putting it back into your system. The second thing that happened instantaneous was the addiction once again kicked in just like that. And I took the second puff, and I was addicted once over, okay? So here is a whole 40 days of denying myself this, and yet, did it transform me? Obviously not. I went right back to it. And it reminds me of all the times that I gave up candy or sweets. It was always in the back of my mind. I was what they call a husky kid. Right? I couldn't get my clothes from the regular boys' rack. All right, they would always say to my mom, "Oh no, miss, you had to bring him downstairs to the husky section. All right, so it always said to me, all right, I'm a little chunky. So when I gave up something for Lent, in the back of my mind is I'm going to lose a few pounds, right? And I did. I lost a few pounds. But all of that came back when I was double fisting jelly beans on Easter morning, okay, when I was biting off the ear of the Easter bunny. It all came back, all right? So did that practice transform me? No. All right, what I'm proposing is that when Jesus was in the wilderness, when he was in the desert, all right, it wasn't the fact that he didn't have a lot to eat, all right, that transformed him. It was something else. All right, and what that something else is something that Donna mentioned 2 weeks ago, Drew mentioned last week. All right, it's prayer and silence. Right? That's the transformer. All right, you go into a desert because you don't want to be distracted by anything. All right, you just want silence. All right? And Donna has done a very good job of trying to create an atmosphere of centering prayer in this parish. All right, and centering prayer was a system of contemplative prayer, all right, that was established by, the main person was Thomas Keating. He was a Trappist monk, and he had 2 other Trappist monks help him. But one of the interesting things that Thomas Keating said, you know, like, and it's something that we flashed during our Wednesday online meditation, is a quote from Thomas Keating. And it says, silence is God's first prayer. Everything else is a poor translation. Silence is God's prayer. Okay, so I propose that Jesus, right now, we know that he prayed because after he comes out of the desert, there are many instances in the scriptures where he goes off and prays by himself. He establishes contact, all right, with his Father. All right, so then we know, all right, that Jesus must have done this during those 40 days and 40 nights. And he comes out, the itinerant preacher. He comes out with, he knows his mission. His mission is to teach us about his Father's love. And he does that. Now, what about us? That's why I asked, you know, like during the meditation this morning, this late 1-minute meditation, if you think about your past life during the period of Lent and all the things that you've given up during that period, have they really transformed you? I know that they never did for me. All right? But what has transformed me, all right, is going into silence and praying and meditating. And that is what I am proposing for everyone for this Lenten period. If we want to be transformed, all right, I think that this is the way that we have to do it. All right, so we find the silence and we go there every day. Now for me, my silence is as soon as I get up in the morning. All right, the first thing that I do, go into my easy chair and I begin putting myself in the presence of my God. All right, your silence might be the same. All right, it might be something different. It might be that you have a hard time getting to sleep at night. So you can use that as your silence. Or maybe during lunchtime, you can close your office door and spend 5 minutes that way. So what do we do in silence, says you? In silence, you ask yourself 3 questions, says I. What are those three questions? Who am I? Where am I? And where am I going? Who am I? Where am I? And where am I going? Now let's go, like the easiest one first, all right? The easiest one is the third one. Where am I going? We all know where we're going. We're going to the land of the hereafter, all right? That's where we're going, so that we can spend eternity with our Abba, our brother, and their spirit. That's the easy one. Where am I? That's not so hard either, because when we think about it, like either we're on the straight and the narrow to the land of the hereafter, wearing Jesus' sandals, or we put on our old sandals and made a detour. Okay, and if we made the detour, what's the easiest way getting back to the straight and narrow? Now the last one is the bugaboo. All right, the last one is, who are we? And that is one that none of us likes to think about. None of us likes to go in and try to figure out who we really are. And the reason for that, I think, is that we have been taught that we are sinners. I confess to Almighty God and to my brothers and my sisters that I have sinned. We think of ourselves as sinners. We say, it's my fault, it's my fault, it's my most grievous fault. I'm not worthy to enter under your roof, say but the word, and I will be healed. It's been pounded into us. We don't like to look at ourselves because that's all we see. And we can even in our hymns, one of my greatest hymns, all right, is Amazing Grace. I can hear that hymn and the tears start welling up. All right, and if I hear bagpipes playing it, it gushes out. But yet, amazing grace that saved a wretch like me. Okay, is there any other word, for me anyway? It's onomatopoeia. All right, wretch, it oozes wickedness. The word itself oozes wickedness. All right, so we don't want to look at ourselves, but it's important that we do. All right, and I'm going to propose something. I don't like to bring AA up into my homilies, but today it's necessary. All right, AA, the 12 steps of AA are a spiritual progress into perfection, into transformation, all right? And the theory behind that is that if you don't change yourself, even though you're not drinking right now, if you don't change yourself, you will drink again. So the whole purpose of the 12 steps is to transform. And the fourth step is the step where you look at yourself. You're saying, who am I? All right, and once again, it's not a pretty picture. Now, you do the steps of AA with a sponsor. Sponsor is a spiritual director. Okay, and any sponsor or spiritual director in AA, if he's worth his salt or her salt, they'll always tell the sponsee, all right, this is how you look at yourself. You take a sheet of paper, you fold it in half, lengthwise, open it up, and on the top you write nay and yay. Plus, minus, pros, cons, whatever term you want to use. All right, and then you start making a list. But the thing is that every time you put something in the nay list, you must put something in the yay list. All right, you can never put two nays back to back. You must always do it equal. And what most people find out at the very end of this practice, all right, is that their yay list is much greater than their nay list. All right, so this is what I am proposing. All right, that if we really want to transform ourselves during this period of Lent, all right, why don't we seek out the silence? All right, why don't we, in that silence, look at ourselves and ask us those three questions. Who am I? Where am I? And where am I going? All right, and I can guarantee you that if you spend 5 minutes a morning, or your 5 minutes of silence, wherever it is, all right, you'll want to double it before long, because it's the only time of day that you are peaceful, that you have the peace that we all crave, all right? And pretty soon you'll be saying, I'm going to do 10 minutes, maybe 15. I want that peace. All right, so that's my sermon on transformation. All right? Why don't we give it a try? Can't hurt. So my prayer for you is that during the next 40 days, all right, you'll find that peace. You'll find it in silence, and you'll find it in prayer. Namaste.
Namaste.